There's an American teenager headed to the English Premier League. There's turf trouble up in Foxborough. And what's next for Travel Football Fan? That and more coming up on today's edition of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show that dots the map of the ever-changing American soccer landscape. This is Morning Kickaround. How's it going? My name is Robert Kerr. Hope you're well. I am local soccer guy. And to my side, friend of the program, a fan of more teams than any other man I know, and now a permanent host on the We Are Soccer channel, Mr. Luke Zagorski. Welcome again to the program.
I'm surprised you remember me, and it is lovely to be back. I must confess, it's a bit disconcerting being in front of the China cabinet again, rather than a bunch of nice, football tchotchke like you have and like I have at the other place. But it's lovely to see you, Rob. And in your honor, I just want to quickly do this.
The Peterborough Posh making a rare appearance.
The old Posh, yes, sir.
I'm not used to seeing them in red, typically blue, but I appreciate the context of your kit today. And another side note, Mr. Zagorski, for the viewers out there, one of the biggest kit collections, maybe in Michigan, top in the country. Where are you gauging yourself at your the bulk and the size of your collection at this point?
That'd be top 5 in Michigan, I reckon. Top 3, I don't know. Because the funny thing is, I stopped counting after like 300. I just thought, why is the volume? It's not the volume. It's not the glory or the bragging rights or anything like that. It's just fun, man. It's just fun. I started collecting because it's fun. It's fun to wear them. It's fun to talk about them. It's just fun. So globally, probably top 1%. Michigan, I don't know, top 3. But that it doesn't matter. I love doing it. And funny story, anytime I go out wearing a random jersey, it's one of my favorite things to get stopped. They go, "Oh, that's a nice shirt. Where'd you get it?" Doing all that thing. And it happened with my MK shirt up in Michigan, up in northern Michigan a couple of weeks ago. We went up for a little holiday, little vacation, myself and the missus, and I was wearing it, and I got to do the whole spiel. Oh, this is my friend's show, and we do this and they do that. It was lovely to get to talk about it for a little bit.
Well, glad to have you on board with us today. Great show ahead of us. We got Travel Football Fan joining us at the top of the hour. We have some Americans on the move and plenty more. But I do want to welcome in our MK Ultras who checking in early. First in the door with generosity as well, Mr. Bob. 5 memberships donated. Thank you, sir. You're helping us grow this channel membership. And then I hope you're feeling well. You said you're laying on your back, but pointing out, well, that we are getting to that 10K subscriber number. We'd love to hit 10K subscribers by the Kickaround in September so we can make that goal for Kickathon 2 to be even bigger. Welcome in the door as well to Jack, Tim, Big Lou, and Jeff, and Armando as well.
There he is.
And Kate, I play French horn. Good morning to you. Shrimper Steve from the UK. Good morning, sir. And we got John as well. We got John.
He's already at his lunch.
And then we have a New England adjacent story. So I'm glad to see our New England folks in the house today. Good morning, George. And then Dwayne, a friend of both of ours at this point, donator of fine kits and creator of his own. And many people wishing Bob good health. And then Bill Barrett, one of our good friends, met him up in Flint. And if I was going to say one more note about the MK kit, got multiple comments on that and also got recognized by a complete stranger about the show by seeing the kit. So that was exciting as well. And then going back to the memberships, thank you so much, Mr. Bob, for donating. If we could get 5 to 10 more of those today, we'd be very successful here on our Wednesday. But You can subscribe, doesn't cost you a darn thing. Sharing or liking the show doesn't cost you a darn thing either. So any way you can help the show, we appreciate it here. Trying to expand our network of MK Ultras and then continue to dot the map of viewers, subscribers. And if you just want to hit the like or share, that is helpful too. Just give you an update. That date that Mr. Bob said it is Kickathon 2 is actually the 16th of September. So our second ever fundraising marathon show will be on September 16th. Kickathon 2, be there. And then, yeah, like I said, we're trying to get past that 10K subscribers so we can shoot for the sky there for Kickathon 2. Don't forget about the Morning Kickaround store where you can order a kit or many other pieces of merchandise, including hoodless sweatshirts, t-shirts, mugs, and more. And then with an MK membership, you become an MK Ultra, you get your priority. You get priority for your comments to get on the screen, like Mr. Tulsa Mario, who I think I saw on the broadcast of the game over the weekend, the USL game that was on the TV, or on my TV at least. And so if you become an MK Ultra, you get priority comments to these live streams. You get access to bonus content and access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server, which features conversations, lively and robust conversations from local, USL, MLS national teams, abroad, and more. And then also we got to do a little bit of brainstorming on the second line of MK merchandise. We like to be collaborative over there as well, because I think we should probably freshen up the MK store by the time Kickathon 2 rolls around. Anything else we can share? Jenny is back from vacation, so the podcast should be up again. We got a few questions. Where's the podcast? Because we are a podcast as well. Some people only listen to us. And so Jenny's back from vacation. Thank you for her contributions. And definitely podcast listeners miss her quite a bit when she's out of town. But I think it is time to get to the show. Let's get into the meat and potatoes here on Wednesday, August 12th edition of Morning Kickaround. Let's go. All right, kicking off the show with some Americans abroad and exciting news. 19-year-old American wingback / right winger Zavier Gozo is heading to Crystal Palace. The Utah native had 6 goals, 5 assists in 16 games this year. Exciting times, and another American for Premier League fans to follow.
Marvelous, marvelous. I really like this kid. And it's funny because we do revisionist history a lot as sports fans. We look back and we go, well, that should have happened, or that shouldn't have happened, or why did that thing not happen? And for me, it's like, I'm trying to remember, Rob, why did Gozo not have a firmer, harder shot at making the US national team squad?
That's a good question. I couldn't really answer that. I didn't know a lot about him until he kind of went on this hot run this year. I mean, that's not a bad question. Why wasn't he in the mix? Maybe he didn't show enough, or maybe Pochettino was working kind of with a canvas he had already had some ideas on, because there wasn't any like shocking surprises other than maybe Reyna, who we'll get to later maybe, was really the only surprise. But yeah, not a lot of new out of nowhere players were on that World Cup roster. But that's a decent question.
I mean, he was regarded as a long shot for the squad. A lot of people were like, he's got to go because of this, that, and the other reason. The fact that he does offer us something, you know, ability-wise and approach-wise. He offers a little bit of something that maybe the US have some of, but aren't stacked with. And his own coach at Real Salt Lake, Coach Mastroeni, said himself, yeah, he should be on that plane. And Gozo himself was kind of, yeah, I kind of want to go. But interestingly enough, he said before the squad announcement that he wouldn't be that disappointed if he didn't get called up. But after the announcement, or lack thereof, after he was announced as having been left out, he said it disappointed him. He said it hit him harder than he expected it to hit him. And I think, like I said, revisionist history, looking back, if you look at his body of work, and I'm sure you'll get into the stats here in a bit, he's a frigging good player. It probably seemed like a sensible decision at the time, but looking back at it now, I'm like, he would have been good. He would have been good on the plane. It would have been a great experience for him.
Yeah, and maybe that spark of youth of someone coming in there with a little bit of naivete and just getting thrown into the mixer could have been an interesting variable, whether it would have had any kind of impact or he would have had any impact in those tough moments against Belgium. Hard to say, but it would have been he would have been an exciting addition to that. Like I said, this year alone in 16 games from a wingback sort of a role, 6 goals and 5 assists is a pretty impressive contribution. I haven't watched a whole lot of Real Salt Lake myself, but it's exciting for a player that hasn't been hyped to death, hasn't been tracked since he was or nationally tracked in the spotlight for years and years and years. It's nice to see someone that kind of surprise you and then make that jump in their teenage years. I was actually surprised that his resume would qualify him for a visa in the Premier League. Sometimes like players have a hard time, especially young players, because there's like a point system to play and get a visa to play in England. But apparently he's got enough to qualify. So kudos to him. And Crystal Palace becomes like that team to watch. Our full-time co-host, Jason Davis, he's a big Fulham guy because the American connection, but that kind of connection is fading and Crystal Palace is kind of edging in there a little bit.
Isn't that strange? Yeah, with Chris Richards already there's a lot for American, especially if you're neutral, especially if you're an unaffiliated fan of this beautiful game. As an American, you guys, I'm really jealous of the American soccer audience sometimes because you guys are not bound by the same rules as I am. For example, the whole zip code thing. If I'm born or live in a certain area, I'm kind of sort of obliged to support the team that plays the closest to my house, which makes a lot of sense, but it feels like an obligation sometimes. You guys don't have that. So you can attach yourself to any club that you have a natural affinity for under your own rules, and that's a beautiful thing.
Well, I did introduce you as the man who's a fan of more teams than anyone else I know. So I don't know if you're exactly bound by the one team mantra, but
No.
we'll move on from that. So kudos to Gozo, and that's hopefully I'm saying that correctly. But so that's exciting to see a young up and comer with the American flag next to his name go into the league with the most spotlight on it in the entire world and go to a team who he'll get playing time if fit. You'd think he's not like going to get buried on Chelsea. If he was going to Chelsea or something like that, I would be quite as excited because they've signed 50 players and he'd probably be on 4 years or whatever. So exciting. It
is exciting.
Who knows if he'll be like a day one starter, but he's definitely got a fair shake to get into the team with that landing place. Moving on, stepping below the Premier League, but 2 Americans going to the same place and then 3 buddies being on the same club in the UK. That's unusual, right?
Yeah, it is. And you know what's funny, Rob, is that they all live together right now. I don't want to spoil your thunder by announcing the names or what have you, but
go ahead.
One's been there for a year, good old Aidan Morris, and the other 2 that have just arrived. Apparently, they are living with him, and they've said to the club, "This is actually fine for now. There's no rush." So you got 3 blokes in their early to mid-20s, 3 soccer players, American soccer players in a foreign land in a foreign city, just living together and having a great time. Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, it's certainly interesting. And if there's that memed music video, so we've kind of beat around the bush. So we got Aidan Morse was already there.
Yeah.
And then we got Berhalter a couple weeks ago. And then the fullback. Remind me, another Columbus Crew guy.
Yeah, Maximilian Arfsten, who first of all, full clarity, yes, all 3 of these guys have played for Columbus. Aidan Morris a couple of years ago, he was an unexpected youth breakthrough into a very, very good Columbus team, and the fans loved him because of his hard work ethic, just his sheer work rate and energy in that midfield. So he left, and then Max Arfsten at one point was probably the most popular player on the Columbus Crew roster, by virtue of all the big sort of superstar names, the DPs having left, and then he's gone. And then, yeah, Berhalter used to play for the Crew as well. He wasn't particularly remarkable for us during that time of his career, but it's really funny to see three names from the Crew past, all just presumably just living in a semi-detached house in in Middlesbrough. I'd love to imagine what those guys are getting up to right now.
Yeah, well, who's to know, but I'm sure they're busy getting to it with the challenge of the championship ahead of them. And it kind of reminds me of what they think of Middlesbrough, like, oh, I'm going to Europe. And in Middlesbrough, not the most glamorous place. And I remember having a chuckle about Carly Lloyd when she went to Man City. She was like, oh, I can't wait to be in Europe. And having a chuckle that Manchester, Europe, a lot of people from Manchester wouldn't even probably necessarily call themselves European, but funny nonetheless. But yeah, 3 Americans at Middlesbrough. If you're down to follow the championship, I guess that's your team. But in other Americans in England news, Haji Wright going to the Premier League by way of promotion.
Lovely, isn't it? It's lovely to see Coventry City back in the Premier League. They were actually, Rob, you'll remember this from when you were a young whippersnapper. Coventry were one of the original teams.
Yep, Kobe Jones was the first American I watched play in England when I was over there. He was on Coventry as a Premier League founding team, and kind of amongst the notes for Kobe Jones, he was a Coventry player.
He was a pioneer, as was his teammate at the time, Roy Wegley. You know, another American. I wouldn't say necessarily great, but he was an international, and he was with Kobe at the same time. And yeah, you'll know this, Rob, when you're 12 or 13, like I was at that time, you just remember everything. Certain things stick out to you as being interesting or remarkable in some way. And I'm always going to remember the fact that, yeah, Coventry City were trailblazers in the fact that they were a Premier League team and they had a couple of Americans.
Yeah, and so Frank Lampard brings Coventry away from a generation being away down in the lower leagues of the EFL for quite some time, but absolutely smashed the championship last year. But you said that Haji Wright might not be starting the season. He is an injury, perhaps?
There are rumors that he's got a bit of an injury going on, which is going to be a massive blow for Coventry because not only is he is their main goal scoring threat. I know that they've signed some other folks and what have you, and that is lovely. But Haji Wright is not only their main goal threat by virtue of the stats he's already put up in the championship, but Rob, he's actually kind of built for the Premier League in terms of he's strong and he's fast, and they are coveted right now. These big, strong, fast forwards who don't mind cutting out wide and doing that whole game, cutting in from the wing. Those are the folks those are the players that clubs around Europe are looking for. And yes, Haji is not necessarily known as like a world beater, and he's not that age anymore where he's regarded as like a young hot prospect, but he's bloody good and he's built for the rough and tumble and tussle of the Premier League. And I hope this injury isn't serious because I really enjoy watching him.
And then, I completely agree with you there. And when he's on a heater, Haji Wright is really fun to watch, and he can come up with some clutch goals. And he was a big reason why Coventry did so well to get themselves promoted out of the championship and into the Premier League. But our familiar names still hanging in and on the rosters of Premier League sides. Familiar names like Chris Richards. He'll have an American teammate there. Anthony Robinson. He's going to be huge for Fulham. I know that Fulham supporters are a little worried about the depth of talent they have there. So Anthony Robinson was already one of their better players, so he's going to have to become even more important for Fulham. And then Tyler Adams, he's lost his manager, but I'm actually surprised that there hasn't been more rumors around him, because that just midfielder with an engine that doesn't seem to stop, you feel like would be in high demand. Obviously, he's got his shortcomings with his passing and a little bit of like creativity, but he's almost kind of with his engine and his space covering, he's almost like a Conte sort of disciple in a way. I don't know if that's the right terminology to use, but that covering space guy. Maybe Liverpool, I don't know if he's up to the technical level, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe he follows Iraola maybe to Liverpool. I don't know if that's a crazy step up for him, but for now he's at Bournemouth.
Well, he's been linked to Man United for ages and ages and ages, and I, for one, would absolutely love to see that. My favorite thing about watching Bournemouth is that engine room of him and Alex Scott constantly working hard and covering for each other, trying to win the ball back and harrying the opposition when they don't have the ball, and figuring out ways to get it to the creative outlets on the team when they do get the ball. They work really, really well together, and they're fun to see. Quick word on going back to Chris Richards though, and Hashi actually, yeah, Hashi and Chris Richards, their contracts are up at the end of 2027, so they have, let's say, enlightened self-interest right now on working as hard as they possibly can to make an impact and get another Premier League level contract.
We shall see. Playing for a contract is a motivator, so maybe we'll see the best of them, or maybe some changes in the colors that they wear. And lest we forget, another American in the Premier League, sticking with Leeds, as far as I know, Mr. Brendan Aronson didn't really make a mark at the World Cup. He was decent last year for Leeds. Any thoughts on Aronson?
Yeah, I mean, they quite like him. I mean, there's some new attacking options that have arrived, Harry Wilson and whatnot. So Aronson's, his work rate, I think, and his familiarity with the squad will keep him heavily involved. But the reason I like Brendan Aronson is that he won over the fans, Rob. He won over the fans. There was a lot of consternation when he arrived and didn't make this, immediate splash impact with the Leeds fans, who are, the notoriously tough Yorkshire bunch. But he won over the fans, and they really like him because of his energy and because of his work rate. I think I've said the word work rate an awful lot, but it is something that British football fans prize amongst pretty much everything else. And you got to love it when a guy goes to a new team and wins the fans over eventually just through hard graft. Love that.
Yeah, definitely the Northern England football fans love a player that'll just chase lost causes all over the field. And Brendan Aronson is definitely one of those. So Americans in the mix in the Premier League this season, which I think starts in next weekend, about 10 days from now, we're back in the mix of the Premier League. So between the domestic action and the European action back, our 12-hour Saturdays of watching football or soccer is right around the corner once again.
Lest we forget that the EFL, so the Championship, League One, League Two, and all that it provides, that's kicking off this weekend. And we didn't really plan for this, but my goodness, there are a handful of games that are gonna rock people's worlds if they have time to tune in. This Saturday and Sunday, there's some really, really, really good championship games that are kicking off the championship calendar this weekend. Can't miss stuff, really.
Yeah, I know there's plenty of our MK Ultras, our channel members, that tune into the footy any which place in the ladder there is. So I know some folks will be tuned into those matches, and there might be a few more eyeballs on Middlesbrough with those Americans. But to repeat the headline of the segment, 19-year-old American from Utah, Zavier Gozo, heading to Crystal Palace. And so there'll be a pair of Americans on Palace this year. We're going to take a quick break. Talk about the turf troubles up in Foxborough next up here on Morning Kickaround. Interesting ongoing development up in Foxborough, the home of the New England Revolution, and of course the New England Patriots. And it kind of connects to the ongoing fight or consternation of playing on turf compared to playing on natural grass. And it seems that American interest of wanting, to play on grass for the best results, the best presentation of the world's game. And then obviously teams play on artificial turf for NFL and whatnot. But the NFLPA and the players have been getting ever increasingly louder about wanting to play on grass surfaces. And then so what's going on right now at this moment, that in New England, where the Revolution play, they tore out the World Cup grass. That made headlines as well. Like, why can't they just leave it? It's there. Why can't they just maintain the grass? They stripped all that out and laid a new artificial surface. But there is a layer, an elastic layer that the company Hellas Field didn't put under there. And that is part of the NFL CBA, that they have to have this E layer. And so the company that usually does it, Field Turf, is now rapidly trying to lay that regulation or compliant turf before the Patriots play preseason on Thursday night, just a day away. So some fuel for the fire of playing surfaces.
They're doing all this. They're doing all this right now, and they hope to get NFL clearance by this evening, because there's an NFL. There's a hand egg. Who I forget, Rob. Who calls it hand egg in the MK Ultra Discord chat? One of our esteemed members is known for calling it hand egg, and it always makes me laugh.
Producer Jenny is raising her hand that she does
that. There you go. I know it's probably more. Yeah. There's probably a couple of people who do, but they're trying to get this thing done like right now. Marvelous stuff.
Yeah, and so will it be the Players Association that kind of turns the tide for the playing surfaces? I'm not 100% sure when the CBA negotiations comes up, but it just adds just a little bit more fuel to the fire that the players aren't happy with the surfaces. And then it looks like maybe, I don't know if this Hellas Field, the reporting says that they made an unauthorized decision not to lay that. And the Revs had to play on this unapproved surface for 3 matches here in this interim period between now and the conclusion of the World Cup. And so was Kraft trying to save more money? Was Hellas trying to, make their own call? Because according to this NBC Sports report, that they thought this E layer would make it too spongy or too springy, but I think that's what the players want.
I think it is, yeah. Now, it's interesting to note that the Revs players themselves came out and recently said, when asked directly, how was it playing on this apparently, inherently incorrect system and surface? How was it? And they were like, yeah, all right, it's fine. It's about the same as what we usually expected. It's funny. But I'm curious about that too, Rob. I'm curious about whose fault was it? Whose fault was it? We live in an age where everybody's got to have a finger pointed at somebody else, and I just want to establish whose ultimate responsibility was it? Was it, did the Revs make the judgment call on having this omission on their installed on their field, or was it the manufacturers and the providers, Hellas themselves, who went, this is fine, boys, this is absolutely going to be just lovely, fine, don't even worry about it, it's going to be okay, and then it wasn't? So who's carrying the can on this, Rob?
Well, we'll see. They're definitely scrambling. Like I said, they're changing the field over as we speak for their Thursday night's preseason game. And no matter whose fault it is, it's a hellish of a problem, right?
Hey, there he is. There it is. There's the pun. I think this is the 958. I don't know who had 958 on their bingo card, but it took Rob 28 minutes to make a pun. It was a good one, though. So I applaud you.
All right. So hopefully, fingers crossed, this kind of adds more fuel to the fire, and the CBA for the NFL includes natural grass. So the MLS teams and all the other teams that are sharing the fields with American football teams perhaps will be able to play on real grass. Because we saw it is possible. It is very possible to do that. We saw that across the World Cup and didn't really see, other than where the final was played at MetLife, didn't really see any complaints about the surfaces. So it was proof of concept yet again that the grass can be put down, and players, the players, the product, the actual thing that we want to watch performing at its peak level, like playing on a certain service. So for a little bit of pocket change, NFL teams, they got a lot of money. They're like the billion-dollar industry, and they don't want to pay a groundskeeper. But we'll follow that story along. But we're about halfway through Wednesday's episode. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for Mr. Bob for donating memberships at the top of the show. Feel free, support the show.
Legend.
Or through sharing. And we appreciate the comments on here. You can hit the like button. Doesn't cost you things. Subscribe. Help us get to 10K subscribers before our Kickathon 2 in September. And so then we can set our goals for that Kickathon marathon subscriber and fundraising marathon show. Help us set our sights a little bit higher. All right, we have our guest waiting in the wings, travel football fan in the house, next up here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome back in here, Morning Kickaround here on a Wednesday, and happy to welcome back a friend of the program. We checked in with him quite often in the lead up and throughout the World Cup, but now that things are settling down after the World Cup, wanted to see where you're at. Travel football fan, hey, welcome back, welcome, and congratulations for making it through the marathon of the World Cup. And I saw that you were trying to go on a sabbatical, but things really haven't quietened down since the World Cup, have they?
No, I should have put a counter right here, a sign, like how many days since Gianni has messed up my sabbatical. I think it went back down to 0 because of the Mexico joining CONMEBOL promise. And so it's like, come on, man, I'm trying to enjoy my piña colada, but it's not happening.
Yeah, so actually tell us more about that. That's the kind of the fresh new topic, right? What's going on with Mexico?
Yeah, one amongst many, and I'm obviously wearing an I Love Democracy shirt. That's probably what Gianni should have been practicing this entire time. What he calls democracy is really just an avoidance of accountability, shady deal making in the back rooms, and no transparency. Just backroom deals. So apparently, one of the reasons why the Mexican Football Federation is supporting Infantino is because he promised them that he would move heaven and earth to have them join CONMEBOL, leave CONCACAF, in exchange for support for his presidency. So it's just this backroom wheeling and dealing. If anyone needed to know how politics works, like, geez, just look at what Infantino is doing at its best, right? But not only that, it's also the fact that if you also wanted to know how an incumbent politician has so many advantages over challengers in U.S. elections, look at the fact that Gianni flew to the Colombian president's inauguration. What is he doing there? Apart from the only reason being to speak with the football president and with the president of the country in the same room to say, hey, what can I do to get your vote? Like, these are the types of advantages that Infantino has over any challenger because he can just bill all of this travel to FIFA. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, I mean, what else can we talk about? How much time we have to talk about all of these shady dealings that he's doing, right? The Morocco deal, right? That apparently Morocco would get the World Cup final in 2030 if, Morocco pledges support for Infantino. We got a whole laundry list here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Colombia. This is a bit of an aside, but you're Colombian, you have a lot of connections there. I saw you're talking about a GoFundMe for, if you guys didn't know, huge earthquake this week. Let them know how they can help.
Yeah, no, thank you for doing that. So yes, folks, I have a GoFundMe link on my bio on Instagram. I'll go ahead and post it on TikTok as well later on today. But obviously, as you've seen, this earthquake has really devastated large swaths of the country, and we're beginning to get images of the epicenter itself and the Chocó region of Colombia. So if you want to go ahead and donate money, that's probably the best thing you can do, just because these regions that are affected, it's very difficult to get there already as it is. And so transporting like physical goods is going to be very difficult. So go ahead and support our efforts on the GoFundMe. Again, that link is on my Instagram, and I'm going to be resharing a lot of information in the next couple of days regarding the efforts to support the people over in Colombia.
Yeah, our hearts and wishes go out to those affected by the huge earthquake down there, and hopefully your people are all right, and everyone is recovering. But to kind of reset here, you kind of set out on this social media journey to help people with their traveling needs and get them to the United States, to the World Cup. Obviously, like, politics and everything kind of melded in with each other through the course of things because the politics and the travel became so enmeshed. But on the travel front, did folks coming from overseas get into the United States? Like, were there positive stories? Was it mostly negative? Like, kind of like on the actual travel aspect, how did that all work out?
Yeah, I think the positive was that none of the negative stuff happened, for the most part. I think that would be the way to frame it. But if we want to celebrate some wins, and I think it is important to take stock of what this World Cup represents in terms of legacy, wins. Public transportation didn't fail. I think that's a massive win for the United States. Granted, maybe because not as many people came, right? There is that potential caveat there, but at least they was able to manage the people that did come to the United States. And so at least we win in that respect. I think people generally left the United States with a positive impression of the country. Although, of course, in the political realm, that was trying to there was an attempt to skew that to say, see, these people love America. It's like, well, wait a minute, you were talking trash about and moving games away from Seattle, from San Francisco, from Boston, cities that people enjoy the most. I think in a lot of surveys, they mentioned these cities as very much like cities that they love. They enjoy the public transportation. They love the environment. And we saw the fan bases that showed up in each of these cities. Boston, we saw, of course, the Scottish. In Seattle, we saw the support that the USA had over there. San Francisco, even for some of these other teams. I know in Seattle, to go back to that city, folks there told me from the World Cup host committee that Bosnia showed out in massive numbers to their match over there. I believe it was against Qatar, if I'm not mistaken. So the United States, at least, I would say on the positive side, showed its good side in that respect. And even in the other two countries, in Canada and Mexico, there was generally positivity there all around, especially from Mexico. I think as a fan that went to Mexico to see the two Colombia games there, I think there was just a general like hospitality that, I think Mexicans are known for, but it was even more so during this World Cup. And I think that the fan base left this World Cup with a sense of optimism, if you really think about it, because and even from if you compare the two Spanish phrases that they use a lot, "Si se puede," yes we can, to "y si si," why not? And so there was a kind of a shift there of, oh man, we couldn't do it, to like, why couldn't we do it? And they almost did against England. I think that was the best game of the tournament, England, Mexico, which I didn't get to go to, but the two games I did get to go to in Mexico, Colombia, Uzbekistan, Colombia, DR Congo, just amazing. Just I don't know how else to describe it. Azteca seeing 80,000 Colombians over there is just crazy. It's just, maybe that's why they want to go to CONMEBOL. I would pay for that. No, not gonna lie to you, I would pay for that type of environment. And then of course at Guadalajara, to hear one of Mexico's most iconic mariachi songs, Cielito Lindo, being played during the hydration break is a very cool cultural touch that they were able to add to that otherwise infamous hydration break. So I would say the travel in that respect was positive.
On the contrary, I just had a joke pop to mind that seeing all those Colombians travel to Mexico, is Mexico Liga MX considering a Leagues Cup with Colombian leagues now?
See, but that's the whole point. We're moving to CONMEBOL, right? Because Mexican clubs have competed in the Copa Libertadores, and they actually would perform better than many of the countries in CONMEBOL in the club scene, because they do have resources to compete against the clubs in Argentina and Brazil. And I think that in the times that they were competing in the Copa Libertadores, they would at least finish quarterfinals, semifinals. I think maybe one or two teams did reach the final. They didn't win it. So I would say club-wise, Mexico would benefit in that respect. But I think in the national team, there might be of a double-edged sword there, because one of the main complaints of Liga MX is that they're not letting their young talent go to Europe. Now they definitely won't be going to Europe if they get to play in Copa Libertadores. They get to stay at home. They make even more money, and the profile of the Libertadores does increase. So it's kind of like, which way do you want to have it? Do you want your players to go to Europe, or do you want to go ahead and join CONMEBOL and then, keep your players in your league in the hopes that your league does improve quality-wise?
Yeah, Mexico and the Federation in a funny spot right now. Obviously showed the world their hospitality, their culture and everything. But since the World Cup, kind of backing Infantino, this move.
The Federation, the people, I would say, yeah.
yeah. Like everything else, it's the admins that are putting whole communities into tricky spots. And then also the promotion relegation cancellation, and they're having protests in the second division. So definitely not all as well. in that way. But definitely Mexico making some moves, definitely not standing pat. Whether that's what's driving that. Is that altruistic? We we shall have come to our own judgments. And you were talking about going back to the travel aspect. You're saying that it was positive for the most part. That you picked out some of the positivities, like the infrastructure did all right, the public transport did all right, and there was definitely some great moments in showing again the people showed themselves in a good light here in the States. But kind of like transitioning. So you said you were trying to take a sabbatical, and then, but I also saw you launched a newsletter. So you're not like completely stepping away from what you're doing as Travel Football Fan. So are you looking? What's like the next like big project that you're leading into? Because there was you did a lot of work in the lead up to help people prepare for World Cup 2026. Are you doing similar for 2027? What's next for you?
Yeah. So before we go into 2027 beyond, I think we also still have to take stock of everything that's going on or has happened since, right? Obviously, the stuff with Infantino, with FIFA, that's one part of it. But I think looking back within the United States, right? I did say the statement, it was positive because a lot of the negatives didn't happen during the World Cup. But this morning, we're getting news that a semi-pro Argentine soccer player was arrested by ICE. Apparently, he had overstayed his visa, but we still have to wait for details on that. But he was arrested in front of his teammates. And if we look back, I made a YouTube thesis video back in January 2025 where I argued that my baby right here is asking for more snacks. But I argued in that YouTube video that this World Cup is going to have a lot of parallels to the 1978 Argentina World Cup, and that America and this administration is launching this dirty war against what they consider enemies of the state. And Argentina it was against the subversives, leftist union leaders, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, we could say this war is against the immigrants. 94,000 people were arrested by ICE between June and July of this year during the World Cup. And so a vast majority of them, I think the number's over 70, if not 80%, nonviolent immigrants, only arrested for administrative procedures, and we're basically sending them to the equivalent of concentration camps where health and sanitation conditions are at best bad. And so we're going to have to reckon with a lot of these things with human rights, because if the whole argument against Qatar was they had, thousands of workers exposed to very bad working conditions, hundreds, perhaps, maybe thousands dying, building the stadiums. What difference does it make if individuals died at the stadiums or building the stadiums to individuals dying in prisons, being arrested out in the shadows? And you saw that ICE has been beginning to arrest people at airports. Very curious that they did not do that during the World Cup, because they didn't want people to see the cruelty of that. And so I do wonder, as we continue from here, how do we grapple with this? I mean, we all enjoy the World Cup. Let's just be completely honest. I enjoyed it very much. I wish Colombia would have been in Switzerland, but we all enjoyed it. It was I think a much needed moment of joy for this country. But we're going to have to go back into and take that 38,000 foot view and realize we had this, and this also was happening too. And so, like, how do we reconcile this argument that we were making against Qatar and Russia and these other countries when we did that thing too?
Yeah,
we were supposed to be the country that we're not supposed to be doing that, and yet we did. So
yeah,
I'll leave that as kind of the gut punch of this World Cup, because it was a good event that then we have this black eye to deal with. I think beyond this, right, and I think maybe this is where the optimism of this moment I want to leave with this. So yes, I wanted to take the sabbatical and I guess maybe not make as much content. I guess is where I'm at right now. Unless Infantino quits, I guess I'm making a whole day live stream because people are going to be happy about that. But the whole idea would be to, yes, help continue people go to these tournaments, because at the end of the day, I think what we saw from this World Cup is that in spite of the powers to be, people still want to support their countries. And yes, I would say maybe it was too crazy for some people to pay thousands of dollars for these tickets and, go support their teams. But that's what people see and value the World Cup as. It was taken advantage of by these powers to be. but people still want to go see and support their teams. And I think it would make no sense if I don't help fans go to the Women's World Cup, which I know right now is being affected by the UEFA boycott threats, because they want to support women's sports too. I think that's kind of a casualty here we're not talking about in regards to all of this politics, is that now, just as the Women's World Cup is like at its peak, you could argue, in the international game, now we're gonna have to boycott it because now we have shady business deals going on, right? That will impact women's sports. And I think one of my followers pointed out that in the agreements that they were talking about, no mention of women's soccer was ever made. So, are we just gonna?
You know what, Danny? Let's end on this, because that brings up something that I really, really wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
You segued into this perfectly. You mentioned women's soccer, and we're talking about boycotts of this, that, and the other thing by not only individual countries, but by potentially entire federations, right?
Yeah.
Well, it just so happens that the next super duper big global event on the soccer calendar is the Women's World Cup in Brazil next year. How serious do you think these confederations are about boycotting these big money-spinning, global, influential tournaments? How real is this?
I think they're serious. I from seeing it from the outside, I think they're very serious. I think at this point, it's one of those, like, if Gianni would have just been more transparent about this whole situation, I think they would have been like, we're all amongst equals here. Fine, we'll maybe consider in this. I think it was the shadiness of it, the Trump connection to it. Unfortunately, that is a reality there. I think people are just exacerbated that it's just like, why them? Why specifically this family are we making these deals with? I think it's like those combination of things. And you know what? UEFA realizing they have power. They recognize that the African Football Federation, CAF, is a very powerful voting bloc. And they realize, you know what, this is the only moment that they're going to be able to ally with both the Asian Federation, although some members are, wanting to break away, and CONCACAF, with Mexico wanting to break away. They realize this is the moment that they're going to be able to take out Infantino. And if that means knocking out the Women's World Cup, so be it. Maybe they'll delay it, like how they forced AFCON to be delayed by a couple of months. And so I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if the Women's World Cup gets delayed. But my project will be to continue to help fans go to tournaments like the Women's World Cup, the Men's World Cup, and then, of course, the Euros. They promised, hey, $60 tickets. I'm sure a lot of people are going to want to go to the Euros in a couple of years' time. And we'll have to wait and see, of course, for Copa America, where if they're going to bring it back to the U.S., I'm like, yes, it'll be here, but I know the tickets are going to be jacked up again. So I would like to see Copa America back in South America where it should be.
Amen. Yeah, for the South American football fans that wouldn't be able to go to their own region's championship, for how would that make it, like 8 years in a row or something like that?
So. Yeah,
that would rob them a little bit. And then just a point about what you're talking about with the kind of like what happened in the shadows during. We obviously loved everything that happened in the spotlight with the tournament and everything. What happened in the shadows? I was constantly thinking, you brought it back up, what would Grant Wall say during all these times? And we definitely missed his presence during this whole World Cup cycle, and that's definitely hung heavy, like, kind of thing, what his perspective would be. And would his reporting have led to any change, or kind of maybe he would have chased those stories in the shadows and they wouldn't have been as hidden as they were? But I'm very curious to see your coverage of helping people get down to Brazil 2017. But it would be a shame if the whole boycott situation and that moment that brought situations to a head. I'd hate for the women to have to bear the brunt of that.
Exactly.
That would be a real shame.
Exactly. No, I agreed. And especially, and like we're saying, right, especially when you have all of these teams that now can compete, I would say at equal footing, Spain being the champions, England, immediately being the challenger in Europe. The U.S. I would say is rebooted. Colombia, Brazil, can they pull one off for South America? I mean, I think it would be fantastic if Marta could pull it off for Brazil in her swan song, to be completely honest. So, we'll have to see. Hopefully it happens under new leadership. I think that would be the best case scenario. It happens under new leadership, and we can move on with this whole Infantino saga.
Amen, Danny. Amen. And you know what? I've been offered a couch to crash on for a week or two during the Women's World Cup
There you go.
next year in Rio. Apparently, the accommodations are humble, but they overlook the one of the most beautiful beaches in Rio. So I'm kind of tempted. But if I decide that my poor back can't handle the couch, I'm gonna hit you up for an upgrade.
Thank you. I do appreciate that very much. And hopefully the ticket prices are transparent. You know, not the shadiness of like we never got a price chart for 2026.
That's right. That's right.
Well, we'll see. I'll have to start playing the lottery because I missed out on one World Cup. I don't want to miss out on anymore. But Danny, TavelFutbolFan, check him out on the social medias, Instagram, TikTok. Where are you mostly focusing your creativity these days?
I think Instagram right now, just because again because of the efforts that we're trying to collect funds for the efforts, rescue efforts in Colombia after the earthquake, and then I'll be posting from time to time on my stories there until I decide to make the push again towards 2027 as well. So yeah, for now I am in a sabbatical until Infantino decides to ruin my day again. So the counter is back, I think, to 2 days since Infantino has ruined my sabbatical.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for being our correspondent on these topics throughout this whole 2026 cycle. And all the best. Hopefully that number of days since your sabbatical was interrupted can continue to count up. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us here on Morning Kickaround. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you for your comments. Shout out to everyone checking in across the country and also out of abroad too. I saw we had a comment of someone checking in from Ecuador. So a shout out and thank you for tuning in to Morning Kickaround. We do have one more segment to go on the show. Stick around. We're going to talk about the new USSF program that dropped last week. Stay with us here on Morning Kickaround. Welcome back, Morning Kickaround. We're gonna round out the show with one more topic, and I'm putting this out here I want a lot of comment and some feedback on what everyone thinks of this. About 6 days ago, the United States Soccer Federation dropped a program called the U.S. Soccer Talent Reporters Program, and this is a scheme to either we'll see if it's actually garners results or if this is a shallow attempt to show that the Federation is looking to deepen their net or cast a wider net. But this talent reporters program is asking folks with licenses across the country to kind of basically submit players that they think are talented. And they describe on their press release that as a talent reporter, you will identify high potential players from U13 to U20 through live match observation. And then here's one: submit player evaluations using U.S. Soccer P3 Talent ID digital platform and contribute directly to the Talent ID process for the USSF, helping inform scouting priorities for youth national team player monitoring. And in part of this, you'll receive training, education, ongoing support from the Talent ID team, help expand the youth national team talent pool, increase visibility, and enjoying a national network committed to strengthening player ID in service to the game. So I'm really curious to know what you guys think out there. I'm curious what your reaction is, because this is news to you, Luke. And obviously, after the World Cup, people are talking about pay to play, or we're not seeing all of our best players. Maybe this is a PI response. Maybe this is real. What's your take on the news about the USSF Talent Reporter Program?
Yeah, this is this is remarkable, because in one sense, this is exactly what the country needs. And in another sense, this is the silliest way of approaching a method of fixing a very, very broken system. So for the benefit of the viewing audience, let's all assume that we're all on the same page with regards to the current talent evaluation system in the United States being pretty broken. You've done shows on that, Rob. You've done entire really big, meaty, weighty segments on that before. So we don't necessarily need to rehash this one aspect. Let's just all kind of assume that we're on the same page, that the scouting system in the US needs an awful lot of help. The talent pool is not as big as it should be. and a definitive way of evaluating young American soccer talent. It's just not quite there yet. It's not quite there. So let's work on that assumption and move forward. Essentially, how this would work is if I am a youth coach in, let's say, Metro Detroit, Michigan, and I have a player that I think is the next big one, the next thing, the next, meteor down the left wing, I would submit my analysis of him using USSF's template, which is kind of it's almost like think of it like a TPS report or a certain, like a PDF form. There's a specific form that you kind of sort of fill out, providing evidence and testimony of why this 14-year-old left back is the next Pele. Then you submit it along with your own credentials as a coach or a scout, or you basically tell them, I think this about this player because and then you tell them who you are. I'm a scout. I am a coach of this, that, and the other note. And then somebody at the other end evaluates the credibility of your evaluation. Oh, this guy's a coach. He must know what he's doing. Oh, this guy's be a licensed coach, or he's been a scout for X, Y, Z number of years. Then reviews the testimony, the footage, the facts and the figures of this young lad, and comes to a decision as to whether or not to put him on the map. And it's, Rob, how 2026 an approach to soccer scouting is this? Hey, if you know of anybody, email us.
Well, it's like a double-edged sword here because I feel like if you are paying attention to youth soccer in any way, you know that players are kind of funneled one way or another based on socioeconomics and just availability and the coaching. And in luck of the draw, is the coach in your area good or not? But yeah, you could say that this, like, they're listening to people and acknowledging that players are falling through the cracks. But also at the same time, I think this is what Jack is getting at here in the comments, but it's also like an acknowledgement that they're failing at finding players in the same right. Jack here saying not great PR because they should have been doing something like this. There's something like in its place already. Also just a piece of the puzzle. And then you become the soccer scout. Operators are standing by.
This is what I was just laughing at. I was trying to stifle a guttural giggle under my breath because Kate, you could always be relied on for these zingers, for these one-liners. God bless you, really. There's also another comment as well from a non-subscriber, so I'll just flip through it really quick. It's a fact that Jan Diamandi, who just got signed by Real Madrid for approximately $17 squillion, he was playing in the much maligned but very well respected at the same time UPSL. He was playing in the UPSL, our very own UPSL. What was it, 2.5 years ago, something like that. Players are going to slip through the cracks all the time, but it needs to be the exception and not the norm. It's almost a norm at this point that good, solid, strong American talent is slipping through its own, the country's own fingers. That should be an exception. That should be a once in a while crying shame rather than it's Wednesday, we lost another one. Do you agree?
Yeah, in a sense, yes. I mean, I've joked for a long time. We are deeply involved at the elite amateur level. We both are deeply interested in the USL 2, and I've called a lot of games at that level, USL 2 and Midwest Premier League and UPSL and whatnot. And to me, there's players that you've never heard of from schools from BFE, and you're like, oh my God, where's this player coming from? And you hear a ton of anecdotes of players that play in the suburbs and then they play in inner city amateur leagues. And they're saying these players are the same level. These guys go into college and these guys are going to go work at the factory after our pickup game. And, they're diverted to different paths. And whether this program will address like, okay, sweet, you sent us a clip or an evaluation form on a player, then what did they do with that, right? And like, how engaged will the other end of this submission be? Like, oh sweet, this guy sent me a player from Ohio or whatever. What did they then do with that? Are they gonna invite them to some camps or something like that? But for a little bit more detail, this isn't just any old Tom, Dick, and Harry, to use a saying from you. This applicants to become one of these talent reporters, you have to have a U.S. soccer B license or above in order to qualify, have the safe soccer requirements, agree to other things. But that's the big one. You have to be a B license holder or above. And that is not like, you got to invest some serious time and money to get up to the B level there. So it's not just, I saw a guy on a field who looked good, but at the same time, I guess it's all depends on the follow through, whether this is remembered as just a PR throwaway thing to say, hey, we tried to address that. But at the same time, if there's some follow through, it could be good, because I definitely think there's not enough eyeballs to find all the good players. But I think it's that second step. Like, okay, you ID'd a good player, then what? So if they're like an amazing player in a non-soccer area of the country, we have our hotbeds, obviously, that and it has good coaches and good clubs and all that. But does that mean anything that someone that's playing in like Idaho or Wyoming or any other kind of rural area outside of a metro area, where do they get sent after that? Like, I feel like there's still a couple steps missing there.
Well, a few steps missing. And I want to go back to Jack Thornby's comment, because he hit the nail on the head. He said that there should be something like this in existence already. Number one, yeah, you are absolutely right, Jack. There should be a system in place already that people who know what they're talking about and people who know what they're looking at on these youth soccer fields across the country, they have a way of getting this information to the right people. Number two, though, there is this already, Rob. Please understand how, if you guys don't know the whole ABCD license thing, it takes a lot of time, energy, and commitment to get a D license, let alone a C license. If you are or were motivated to go all the way up to B, if you spent the time, the money, and the energy, and you had the wherewithal and the credibility and the experience to qualify for a B license in the US, and you are not currently sharing what you are learning working with these young players, if you're not currently sharing what you're learning with the US soccer system, then you shouldn't have been given a license in the first place, because that's one of your main mandates. In other words, if you got a B license, you should be doing this kind of crap already. You really should. And if you aren't, then shame on you. So this is not a huge needle mover. It's a nice concept in theory, and maybe it'll get some, like you said, Rob, some B license holders in rural areas to kind of go, I never really thought about telling anybody else how amazing my kids are that I coach. Maybe it'll move the needle a little bit, but not really.
That's a really good point. Like, if you've worked your way and gotten a B license, you're probably involved in the soccer bubble in some way already. And if you're not, trying to push for your talented players, you've done something. You've done something wrong already.
Yeah, because I know our audience, which we've talked about this before. I love how dynamic and diverse our MK watching and listening audience is. That's what you get with an American soccer fan viewership, is a whole mixed bag of, well, I come from here, I come from there, my background is this, my background is that. It might be playing, it might just be watching, it might just be, with respect, bandwagon jumping after a great World Cup. I've seen a lot of that. I don't know if you have. So many people I've met over just the last few weeks have come up and said, man, I really enjoyed the World Cup. I want to get more involved in soccer. I want to watch soccer. I don't want to sound like Donald Trump here. Oh, people tell me. I've had people say. People call me all the time. Oh,
everyone's telling me. Everyone's
telling me, exactly. That is happening to me. Seriously, I get somebody coming up to me probably every 2 or 3 days since the World Cup and just saying, I love soccer. How can I do it? How can I do more of looking at it? It's a growing sport. And so I just wanted to clarify for the audience that a freaking B license is a big deal. This is not I know soccer, I promise, written on the back of a cocktail napkin. The people I know, and Robin, the same people, the people I know in the Metro Detroit circle, the soccer circle, the magic hexagon of trust, or whatever you want to call it, in this area, the folks who have the B licenses, well, A, they have them because they're really involved in soccer and are quite good at it. And B, they're actively using their B license to contribute to the soccer community in some way, shape, or form already. So yes, we can now email clips of our 12-year-old niece, tearing it up at the rec field somewhere, but we kind of sort of could have anyway already.
Yeah, that's all good points, and yeah, there's definitely a cynical way to look at this. We'll see if anything comes of it, but I thought it was notable, and I want you guys to share your comments if you're watching this after the fact. Please share some comments if you have any input on if this sort of thing's happening already, maybe some criticisms of it, or what could come from it. Any positive notes? What could come from this new U.S. soccer talent reporters program?
Yeah. What I thought, I say this real quick. When I first read it, I thought that it maybe kind of sort of would be phase one of a sort of a crowd, like a crowd. Exactly that right there, Riverside Grove, mate. That is exactly what is going to happen because because why not? I thought maybe it was phase one of a more crowdsourcing approach to scouting in this country, and how how modern, how avant-garde would that be? It might work, it might not, but I hope that's what it is. I hope.
Yeah, and to add on to that, you could say that this news might be a little bit more exciting if they were making the barriers of entry for higher scouting or coaching licenses, like if maybe like having to be in certain locations or only having certain sessions. I know that the higher level of coaching education sessions are very limited and they don't have a huge number of people, so and it costs money. So I think that would have been maybe more exciting news. Like, oh, we got all this money from the World Cup. We now don't have to charge as much for coaching education, and probably increasing the number of skilled and educated coaches across the country probably would, do a little bit more for catching those talented players and for like making average players good with good coaching, because places like Spain and Japan that have increased their scouting or their talent process, like it was all about coaching the grassroots people up, like the people that you're saying like they want to get involved, like having the pathway to coaching at the grassroots level, make that easier, because you go to other sports. My kids have dabbled with all the sports, and the amount of community involvement in from when you go to soccer to other sports, at least in my town, there's way more like participation from the school district and just community volunteers and all that stuff. And if you help those people be educated and a little bit more invested, maybe you get a little bit more people involved in trying to help out their local programs, because I've heard numerous stories and anecdotes of like in Spain, there'll be like this 60-year-old guy who's been coaching for 30 years and he's helping with like the 8-10-year-olds in soccer. And you see that to a degree with like tackle football and stuff like that.
He will not, whoever this guy is, he will not take a penny. He will not expect a penny. Nobody's ever offered him a penny. It's a labor of love, very much so. And it happens organically at the grassroots level of the game in every country. And I love seeing it. I do it a little bit without going off on too much of a tangent. I do it, and it's brought me some of the best memories of my entire life. And I'll tell you this, Rob, really quick, because we've talked about this before. I don't die on many hills anymore in football because I'm too old and tired for all of that now. But I will die on this one particular hill. The money that was raised from and by the World Cup in 1994. Amen, John. He gets it. John Stark, that man gets it. The money that was raised in from USA 94, the World Cup, where'd it go? It was supposed to have been used to invest in the grassroots level of the game and basically bring it up to the masses. It vanished. It did some good stuff, truly, but not much. Most of the infrastructure that exists these days it's privately owned. It was privately invested in, and it's privately owned. I really, really hope America as a country, and I mean America, not just not North America, I mean the USA, figures out a smarter way to invest the spoils, riches, and treasures that we all earned from the World Cup. I hope we figure out a way to get it into the hands of people who can really do the damage, really do the impact in expanding the footprint and the potential of the grassroots game in the US. It is the only thing that's going to get the United States on the winner's podium when it comes to a World Cup, in terms of getting that talent pool, not just bigger, but better. That's the one hill that I usually die on these days. I want to see us all working together to make football in this country better. Not more profitable, better.
Yeah, Yeah, ultimately we've made our profit. Now let's improve.
Right.
But
Exactly.
good stuff here, guys. Thank you for your comments. Before we get out of here today, I want to shout out our brand new MK Ultras, and I hope to see you guys in the Discord server. Jason put the updated link in the post section. So if you're on YouTube, go to post. There is the link to join the Discord in there. Now that you're an MK Ultra. Shout out to Greg Delalo Jr., 8009, Max Outlaw, Freshie, Lewis Dana, Bob's Gaming, Bolt Action Jackson, Josh Stevenson, Sox Jet, Kevin Brady, Armando Bus, Glenio, and more. Thank you so much for joining in and supporting. Thank you to Bob for donating those memberships. And I'm going to shout out also our longest serving members, because these gift memberships, they're a month, so they're almost like a sampler. So it's on us to provide good content and you to re-up. But shout out to Nate, Angus, Thomas, Luke, Soccer Night in Detroit, Penzoni, D Parks, Aaron Pimentel, Ryan Seltzer, Thomas, and Kaiser for all being here with us from the start. Thank you for supporting Morning Kickaround.
Rob, how long has that been? How long have we been on the clock with you for? When was day one?
15 months since we launched channel membership.
15 months. Well, it's funny because I remember subscribing to your OnlyFans the month before, so that probably works out about right in the time frame. 15 months. Great stuff, man.
Yeah, it's really been a great journey, and thank you to all you guys, you yourself included, for being here from the start. And then we'll be back for more live action on Friday morning. So as always, thank you for your contributions to the show. Stay safe, remain brave, and as always, enjoy your soccer.